From Recorded Future News and PRX, this is Click Here. Scott Stratton Henderson was already busy.
The full-time job, the business, the full-time student, and of course, family, girlfriend, all of that. And now getting into, local politics and getting more involved.
That last part, politics, wasn't on his summer to-do list. He was supposed to be decompressing between semesters, running his side hustle, a claw machine business.
In the Toy Story, they have that scene where all of them go the claw, right? And they look at it.
Claws are master.
That's my line of work as far as business goes.
Growing up, Scott loved arcade games, that quick hit of luck and reward. And he realized renting these claw machines to local stores was a surprisingly manageable gig on a humble college student's budget with limited space.
My room is a bedroom, but it's also my mini warehouse, right?
Okay. So you have boxes of toys everywhere.
Yeah, that is exactly right. A little fulfillment center in my room.
Scott grew up in St. Charles, Missouri, a tidy old river town just outside of St. Louis. And one night, after one of his notoriously long days, his mom pulled him aside. She'd seen something on Facebook, something that was about to upend his entire summer.
So I had actually heard about it through my mother. She's in the Facebook groups with St. Charles. There's a few different major players as far as Facebook groups, though.
One of those groups was buzzing about something called Project Cumulus. It sounded whimsical, clouds, sky, lightness. But Project Cumulus referred to the technical cloud, the place where our documents, texts, and photos are stored, often in massive data centers. One of which, Scott learned, was knocking on St. Charles's door.
A series of farm fields along Highway 370 in St. Charles could soon be transformed into a data center.
A 440-acre data center to be built on the edge of residential St. Charles, unless Scott had something to say about it.
I wanted to make sure that this thing didn't go up in St. Charles because I have always thought of St. Charles as a place worth fighting for.
He didn't know it yet, but he was about to launch a small revolution against one of the biggest industries on the planet.
Don't get me wrong, I think St. Charles, we would love to be open for business, but it really has to be smart development, not reckless development.
I'm Dina Temple Raston, and this is Click Here. We tell true stories about the people making and breaking our digital world. This week, the cloud. That far-off place storing our data isn't in the sky at all. It's all down here in buildings filled with humming servers that gobble up power and land. As artificial intelligence explodes, those buildings are multiplying, and they're starting to make their way into places like St. Charles. And in many cases, big tech isn't getting a warm welcome. It's getting a fight.
I'm only 20 years old, but I've not seen something that has rattled a community so much.
Stay with us. Support for Click Here comes from Clean My Mac. If you're like me, your cloud drives are packed with files you don't actually need. Sync duplicates, old backups, random junk just gobbling up storage. Clean My Mac takes care of that with a new cloud cleanup feature. It connects to your accounts on iCloud, OneDrive, and Google Drive and scans to find large space wasters, both in cloud storage and on your device. And while my Mac health is apparently excellent, Clean My Mac found 8 gigabytes of junk on my computer and tons of duplicate downloads, and it removed a bunch of leftover applications I never use. Who knew? And this happens locally on my Mac, so my data stays safe. Clean My Mac has a whole suite of other features, too, including their Moonlight anti-malware engine. With just a click, the anti-malware tool scans and removes viruses, ensuring your Mac remains threat-free. Not everything deserves eternal storage, so why pay for it? Get tidy today with Clean My Mac. Try it free for 7 days and use the promo code CLICK to save an additional 20% on your purchase at cleanmymac.com.
Support comes from Dakota State University. What happens when you unite dynamic minds with one revolutionary vision? A rising force on the cutting edge of everything. From a little university on the prairie to a cyber powerhouse of the plains, we're proving the nation's best cyber can come from where you least expect it. Now, we're molding the future of cyber, AI, and quantum computing one graduate at a time. See what Dakota State University is building next at dsucyber27.com.
From Recorded Future News, this is Click Here. Scott Stratton Henderson was 20 when the data center fight came to town, and it seemed absurd on the face of it that he could take on big tech and win. He didn't have experience or connections. What he did have, though, was passion. Passion for the place that raised him, St. Charles, Missouri.
For fun and adventure close to home, visit St. Charles, Missouri. Discover unique shops and
It's the kind of place you'd expect to find on the Hallmark Channel.
A little cliche, but it's kind of what you'd see in the movies, you know. I feel like kids still go outside and whatnot, ride their bikes, so all that sort of thing.
It's all waiting for you. Shop, dine, stay, play. Discover St. Charles, Missouri.
Strolling down Main Street, you pass coffee shops, boutiques, a tavern. The town predates the country itself. It was once part of French territory.
And I think we're one of the first major towns ever created. So it's very old, but it's also very charming.
So the thought of a massive data center landing in the middle of that, it just felt wrong to Scott. Not just that it was coming to St. Charles in the first place, but where in St. Charles they wanted to put it.
The biggest controversy surrounding it, and the biggest reason why I had a problem with it, was the location.
The proposed site was ringed by houses and small farms, the kind of place people move to when they've chosen quiet over convenience.
About 500 feet away from the data center, literally those people would have to walk out every morning and see that massive thing right next to their house.
What's more, data centers are notoriously loud.
You get noise and sound pollution. Data centers are known to have that kind of low humming sound.
According to some reports, that sound can travel up to 2.5 miles. And even if you could wave off the noise or the sightlines, what Scott said couldn't be dismissed was what lay beneath the proposed building site.
St. Charles, we already have a hell of an issue with our water and our wellhead district, which is where they were going to put this thing.
Their wellhead district. While other towns draw their water from reservoirs, St. Charles drinks from the ground. It's aquifer. And that aquifer had already been through a lot.
The city of St. Charles is taking action, conducting its own investigation into water contamination at the city's Elm Point well field.
A few years back, toxic chemicals seeped into the groundwater from a nearby electrical plant, forcing the city to shut down 6 of its 7 wells. Now residents were being asked to trust that the next big project wouldn't make things worse. And this one comes with a new kind of risk: diesel fuel.
One of the parts of this proposal was supposed to put 1 million gallons of diesel fuel as a backup power option on top of the wellhead as well. St. Charles and Missouri in general is a huge tornado-prone area.
Eastern Missouri isn't just tornado country. It also sits on a fault line. If one of those backup tanks ruptured by storm, quake, or simple human error, it wouldn't take much to turn a precaution into a catastrophe.
You know, we're one natural disaster away from being a complete and utter contamination event happening.
And the risk didn't end there. Data centers can consume astonishing amounts of water to cool their servers, roughly up to 5 million gallons a day. And they gobble up huge amounts of electricity, driving up local bills and carbon emissions. Some local utility bills in states like Virginia jumped as much as 25% after data centers moved in. And Scott didn't want that kind of future for St. Charles. His first thought was to start a petition and get signatures door to door. But there wasn't time. The the city council was set to vote on the center just a few weeks later.
There's no way I could have gotten a huge amount of signatures with just doing your traditional door knocking and paper and ink signatures, right?
So he opted for a little 21st century technology.
I started a petition against it with the Change.org petition.
It was a shot in the dark because Scott wasn't sure anyone would care because, as a general matter, St. Charles tends to be conservative and pro-business. But he tried to push that out of his mind, and he hit submit. Then he began to share the link, trying to get at least a few signatures.
I really just started with my parents. I shared it with them. They shared with their friends on Facebook.
He stepped away from his computer, and when he came back a day later,
it multiplies and multiplies and multiplies. And then I think within the first 24 hours, it got over 500 signatures.
2 weeks later, more than 7,000.
So it all happened really quick.
A college kid had just sparked a movement. David versus Goliath, armed not with a slingshot, but a Change.org link. And the giant on the other side of the screen was about to take notice. Stay with us. Support for Click Here comes from ExpressVPN. Going online without ExpressVPN is like not having a case for your phone. Most of the time, you'll probably be fine, but all it takes is one drop, and you'll wish you spent those extra few dollars on a case. Every time you connect to an unencrypted network in cafes, hotels, airports, your online data is at risk. It doesn't take much for someone to hack your device so they can steal and sell your personal information. ExpressVPN protects against that by creating a secure encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. And the security is top-notch. In fact, it would take a hacker with a supercomputer over 1 billion years to get past ExpressVPN's encryption. Best of all, the app is incredibly easy to use and can be installed on all your devices. So go ahead, log on to that Wi-Fi in your local cafe, but make sure you have ExpressVPN first, so you don't end up with a nasty surprise. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/clickhere. That's expressvpn.com/clickhere to find out how you can get up to 4 extra months free. expressvpn.com/clickhere. Support for Click Here comes from Claude AI. Claude is the AI for minds that don't stop at good enough. It's the collaborator that actually understands your entire workflow and thinks with you, not for you. Whether you're debugging code at midnight or strategizing your next business move, Claude extends your thinking to tackle the problems that matter. Why settle for a basic search when you can have a real conversation with Claude? Claude doesn't just fetch results. It helps you think and brainstorm and summarize and draft and even explain. Whether you're untangling a tricky article, preparing interview questions, or polishing up a memo, Claude can help. Ready to tackle bigger problems? Sign up for Claude today and get 50% off Claude Pro when you use this link, claude.ai/clickhere. That's claude.ai/clickhere. Right now for 50% off your first 3 months of Claude Pro. And that includes access to all of the features mentioned in today's episode. Claude.ai/clickhere.
Every day, it's getting harder to tell what's real and what's not.
Alex reassured me that he was a fully licensed and certified psychologist. But in fact, Alex is not a person, but it is an unfeeling chatbot.
I'm Dexter Thomas, and every week on my podcast, Kill Switch, we look at the right now of living in the future to help you take back control of your life. Listen to Kill Switch in the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
When Scott put his petition online, the city council was weeks out from voting on the big question, to data center or not to data center. But in a sense, the people of St. Charles were already starting to cast their votes. Thousands signed that petition, and they started to gather offline, too.
People reached out to me, and it kind of became a more organized effort with, business owners and community members and people really working hard to have more of a unified opposition to it as opposed to just a few ragtag group of, citizens.
As opposition grew, company representatives suddenly appeared in town to make their case.
We're going to end up becoming a significant part of the St. Charles and St. Louis economy, and it's exciting to start bringing that into the new digital economy.
But residents say,
and that, right there, that really is the main argument from tech companies trying to bring their data centers to towns like this. They say they're offering progress.
This seems like an industry of the future. It seems like something that we would want to invest in. So let's do what we can to lure those data centers here.
This is Assad Ramzan-Ali, the director of AI and technology policy at the Vanderbilt Policy Accelerator.
I don't think that's a bad instinct. I think governors and politicians who want to bring jobs to their states, that's a great thing. But in this particular case, it's worth looking at what exactly is the ROI,
ROI, return on investment. Things like jobs and tax revenue. And this other thing that's harder to pin down, the so-called multiplier effect. The idea that if you bring one industry to town, others will follow. Like, say, if you brought in an auto plant.
The auto example is a good one, where you have thousands of jobs being created in an auto plant. You have the supply chain that springs up around it. And all of those people who work there also eat lunch. They also go to the grocery store. So you get all the kind of multiplier effects of the economy when people move in. With data centers, it's different.
They bring in only a few hundred or as many as a few thousand construction jobs, but that's only for a year or maybe two.
But those jobs disappear in 12 or 18 months when the construction's done. The permanent jobs inside the data center, you're talking about a couple dozen each.
Well, data centers may sound futuristic. They're not hubs for innovation. They are, quite literally, warehouses filled with computers, so they only need a few dozen people to keep them running. So in the end, not much of a multiplier effect.
That's not the same. You don't build a neighborhood for 30 people. You don't have new restaurants spring up because 30 people move to a certain area of the city. And so the multiplier effects are smaller for data centers.
And tax revenue? In some cities, tech companies bring in a ton. But in states like Missouri, not so much.
The point where in the state of Missouri, if you create 10 jobs and invest $25 million, you are exempt from all state and local use and sales tax.
Tax breaks like that, Assad says, tilt the balance too far towards big tech.
These are some of the most valuable companies in the history of the world. They can afford it. I don't think a local community in St. Charles, Missouri, or in Tucson, or in Memphis should be on the hook for these kinds of things.
Because while $25 million might be pocket change to a $1 trillion company, to a town, it's the difference between struggling schools and great ones.
The schools, the hospitals, a lot of those are based on state taxes. What exactly are you getting for leaving all that tax revenue on the table at a time when a lot of states are struggling financially?
Given all this, Assad says state and local governments should think carefully before signing on. And if they do say yes, they should make sure companies pay their fair share of the costs, like that uptick in electricity bills locals have been shouldering.
It is totally reasonable for a state to decide that if you're coming to our state for a data center that's really, really energy hungry, you need to pay for the increased energy costs. Look, I'm not anti-data center. I do believe that AI can have a lot of good, and I think we will need a lot of data centers to be competitive geopolitically. But if I was a mayor, I'd say, how does this help or hurt your long-term objectives?
But the problem with the St. Charles data center is that no one knew who to ask about those things. Because as crazy as it sounds, no one actually knew who was behind Project Cumulus. How come nobody knows who it was for?
Right. So that would tie into the non-disclosure agreements.
Everyone involved in the data center project, even the mayor and the city council, had to sign NDAs just to get in the room to hear about it. So the only people citizens could question were the developers building it.
But yeah, what they do is they take the developers and then they create a fictitious name for the development. In this case, it was Project Cumulus or what have you. But no, we do not officially know the Fortune 100 company that was wanting to settle here.
Was it Google, Meta, Microsoft? Anyone who knows can't say. Tech companies argue the secrecy protects proprietary information and even national security. But critics say it just keeps the opposition quiet. But in St. Charles, all that secrecy had the opposite effect.
That's something that, frankly, big tech companies are just going to have to swallow, is that they're going to need to share some more information with the communities they want to do business with, or else you're going to get a lot of pushback like they have been having.
And that pushback came fast. The citizens of St. Charles put out yard signs, handed out flyers. There were raucous protests. Hey, ho, ho. The data center has got to go. Hey. Reporters began covering the fight. The city council meetings used to be sleepy affairs.
This is local government, right? So you don't have a big crowd.
But now, citizens were packing the room, lining up by the dozens to speak.
This non-disclosure agreements are unacceptable to us. We have the right to know what's going on in our community.
I do not want this over the waterhead where it might affect my children, my grandchildren, and everybody in here. You can't buy back your health.
I urge the City Council to reject outright any plans for this data center. Additionally, I want to say I'm very proud of my son, Scott, for being so active at a young age and spreading awareness in a socially responsible way.
That's Scott's dad speaking. By the time the night of the vote arrived on August 19th, there was so much local interest, the council had to move the vote from City Hall to a nearby convention center, just to accommodate the citizens who wanted to attend.
The room was at capacity. There's people overflowing.
I'd like to call to order the regular session of the City Council of the City of St. Charles, Missouri, dated Tuesday, August 19th, 2025. Madam Clerk, could you please...
As the crowd quieted down, a man stepped to the mic, a lawyer for Project Cumulus.
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, if you are well aware, we are not voting tonight on the application. That's because we have withdrawn the application because over the past days and weeks, we have had significant feedback from you as members of the council and from the folks that were just cheering behind me, asking questions about this project, about its impacts, and frankly, about the process to date. And process matters in this community. And I'm here to say the process was poor. We did a bad job at it. We did not get out.
They did a bad job, and the crowd knew it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But that didn't end the night. For 3 more hours, residents stuck around, venting their anger, not just at developers, but at the city leaders they no longer trusted.
Mayor Dan's corruption and incompetence has now been exposed to the entire world with this data center debacle.
Trust was fractured across the board, between citizens and City Hall, between progress and the price of it.
And I call on you to resign immediately so a real conservative can lead St. Charles County.
No one betting on this fight would have predicted how it ended. A rare win for the little guy. And St. Charles wasn't alone. Other communities facing secretive tech deals have fought similar fights. Local networks have formed to share what they've learned, how to read the fine print, how to mobilize, how to make their voices count. But they don't always win the day. And even here in St. Charles, it's not clear they really have. Developers withdrew their proposal, but the city council left the door open, saying they could come back in a year and try again. Some residents worry that's the strategy, to wait them out, to let fatigue do the work that persuasion couldn't. But before stepping away from the mic that August night, Scott had one final thing to say about that.
The people of St. Charles, Missouri have spoken. And even though they have withdrew their application for the time being, they plan on coming back. My message to them is St. Charles does not want or need your data center. When you come knocking on our city gates again, the good people of St. Charles, Missouri will be waiting.
This is Click Here.
Looking for more of the cybersecurity and intelligence coverage you get on Click Here? Then check out our sister publication, The Record, from Recorded Future News. You'll get breaking cyber news from reporters in New York, Washington, London, and Kyiv, among others. And you'll see for yourself why it attracts hundreds of thousands of page views every month. Just go to therecord.media.
Here are some of the top tech stories making news this week. It's Tuesday, October 28th. Last week's Amazon Web Services outage sent shockwaves across the internet.
It's really hard to pinpoint an industry that wasn't affected by this. We're talking aviation, dining, sports betting, social media apps, gaming, even home security.
Even smart beds went down.
Specifically, 8 sleep beds went down too. They were apparently overheating, turning on and off, and some even got stuck in an inclined position so people literally couldn't use them.
It all started at one of Amazon's data centers in Virginia, when a technical update took down part of its domain name system, the internet's version of a phone book. By the time it was resolved Monday evening, more than 100 services had been disrupted. And it was a reminder when one domino in the cloud falls, the rest tend to follow. Experts say the outage exposed just how dependent we've become on a handful of tech giants, known as hyperscalers, and why diversifying cloud providers may no longer be optional. In Washington, a surprise move from the White House.
Some breaking news in the past half hour. U.S. President Donald Trump has pardoned the founder of the crypto exchange, Binance.
President Donald Trump pardoned Changpeng Zhao, better known as CZ, the billionaire founder of Binance, the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange. Zhao pleaded guilty in 2023 to money laundering and violating the Bank Secrecy Act, and he served a 4-month sentence before his release last September. The pardon now clears the way for him to return to Binance's board, something he was barred from doing as a convicted felon. The Trump administration says the move reverses what it calls Biden-era overreach. But critics point out that CZ had lobbied heavily for the pardon, even hiring lawyers tied to Trump, and that Binance's partnership with the Trump family's World Liberty Financial could bring in tens of millions of dollars. The timing also raised eyebrows. Several major crypto companies, including Coinbase, Gemini, Ripple, and Tether, have recently donated to Trump's $300 million plan to build a new White House ballroom. On social media, CZ thanked the president and pledged to help make America the capital of crypto. Meanwhile, at Meta
announced it's laying off 600 employees in its artificial intelligence wing.
The company says it's trying to become more nimble in the AI arms race, trimming 600 positions across its fair research, product AI, and infrastructure teams. In a leaked memo, Meta's chief AI officer, Alexander Wang, wrote that a smaller team means fewer conversations will be required to make a decision, and that each person will be more load-bearing. Laid-off workers can reapply for other roles, especially in Meta's new superintelligence division, known as the TBD Lab. Executives say the reshuffle will cut bureaucracy and hopefully spark bigger breakthroughs. And finally, just in time for Halloween.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but apparently AI can get brainwashed. That's right, according to research.
Researchers from Texas A&M, UT Austin, and Purdue say artificial intelligence can suffer from a kind of digital decay. a version of what doom scrolling does to humans. They fed large language models a steady diet of clickbait and misinformation, and watched as the system's reasoning and memory started to break down. Meta's Llama model was found to be the most vulnerable to what the team called dark traits, things like narcissism. And experts warn that if future AI systems keep learning from low-quality web content, they could start to mirror our worst online habits. Turns out, robots can catch a brain-eating bug, too.
Today's episode was written and produced by Dina Temple-Raston, Megan Dietrich, Sean Powers, Zach Hirsch, and me, Erica Gaida. I was the lead producer for this episode. It was edited by Karen Duffin, fact-checked by Darren Ankrum, and contains original music by Ben Livingston with some other music from Blue Dot Sessions. Our staff writer is Lucas Riley, and our illustrator is Megan Goff. Jesse Neiswanger and Jake Cook are our sound designers and engineers. Special thanks to Nicole Sugarman from the Kairos Fellowship. Click Here is a production of Recorded Future News and PRX. Join us Friday for Click Here's Mic Drop, when we get an inside look at a Google data center.
When you walk into the Google data center, the hum hits you immediately. It sounds like you're walking into a wind tunnel. It just sounds like you're on another planet.
That's Friday on Click Here. We'll see you then.
If you're looking for a daily guide to cybersecurity news and policy, sign up for the Cyber Daily from Recorded Future News. It serves up the day's most interesting and important cyber stories from our sister publication, The Record, and then aggregates all of the big cyber stories you might have missed from news outlets around the world. Just go to therecord.media and click on Cyber Daily to get all you need to know about the world of cybersecurity right in your inbox.